Now we'll start with the discussion. Innocent, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, my question will be on leadership and inclusion, and that leadership will be in touch all levels, the micro and the macro levels. And what I have in mind, what could be the shortest way possible to get the government of Ali Bashir and himself out? By getting him out, I like Adib's point that nobody is going to be excluded. So while we are doing all this work, how do we manage to reach the Ali Bashir himself and his government and look at their fears and include them in our process? I'm saying that in the sense that probably most of the time we don't pay attention to their fears. And as long as we don't pay attention to their fears, and then the choice they have is continue hanging in there and use the little resource that they are remaining with in terms of time and actual resources to maintain themselves there. So I'd like you guys to shed some of that, the lights on that question. Given that when the International Tribunal offered indictment for him, most of the local leaders said, this is a joke. If you indict this guy, you have killed the peace process. And the UN went ahead and said, no, we are offering indictment for him. And Ali Bashir said, okay, I'll continue to hang in until I die, probably. So what might be the efforts that could be at leadership level, international leadership level, both at the community level, countries level, and the great regional countries included, UN included, to address the concerns of Ali Bashir and his government?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that you mentioned here. One of them, like how to include the regime itself in such a project. In Sudan, and I believe in many other countries, people, they believe that blood is thicker than water. Thus, the people in the government, they are not from somewhere else. They are Sudanese, and we are also Sudanese. We know each other as Sudanese. It's easy to reach somebody and talk to him, not like Bashir himself directly. There's people that they're in the grassroots level, there's people on the leadership level and so on. There's always ways of talking to people in the regime and telling them and share with them what I'm doing, if I'm doing the right thing. I don't have a problem on that. If I'm doing the right thing, I don't have a problem of sharing it to somebody else. That includes the enemy himself or herself. There's no problem on that. So we can reach directly the government, explain to them what we wanted to do. Take it or reject it, that is something else. But that will be direct intervention with them. One. Number two, about the indictment and Bashir himself. I don't think he get like support from the leader. He gets support from individuals. In the case of Darfur, because he was indicted because of the crimes that happened in Darfur, he didn't get support from Darfurian. He gets support from individuals that belong to the regime in Darfur, to the NCP. So those people, they came and they are making something bigger. He didn't get like support from the all African countries. He get like support from one or two African countries. So I can't generalize that he gets support from all Darfurian or all Sudanese. But the issue of the ICC is a very long process. It's not going to happen today or tomorrow. Bashir, he just returned from Chad on Friday, 3 days ago. And Chad is one of the countries that signed Roma's Statutes. And so it is the mechanism that the ICC having in place how to arrest the criminals. But it's not about the people or the support that he's getting or he's going to get.
Very quickly to your question, I think if we were talking about it,
May I comment something?
Sure.
Okay, since your connection is breaking, can we do it?
Yeah.
Okay, Ashad, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say that to comment on the question of inclusive leadership. And I was asking myself, inclusion in what? If we can't define what you want to be included in, then you'll be included in any sort of way that the elites or whoever is the leader wants. I'm asking that question to support the idea that we need to engage people to define the state and governance. And I think those ideas were mentioned earlier on very clearly. The kinds of governance and the kinds of state that they want to participate in. Then we can look at the leaders who fit into that. I know that might sound to be wishful thinking and a little bit long process, but that is necessary. The problem is removing Bashir from office does guarantee that whoever will come in will do good. That guarantee is not there. Why? Because the kind of state and the conditions in the ground have not been prepared to produce that kind of leadership. The communities and the people who are fighting it have not been prepared to fight that kind of leadership. So until that takes place, what needs to come out of this conversation, I would imagine, is the recommendation that when we talk about governance and inclusive leadership, those need to be defined in terms that very local people do understand. And then let the conditions defined produce the kind of leadership. Otherwise, removing one leader and then putting another doesn't guarantee that the new leader is going to do good unless there are institutions in place and guidelines that will provide that kind of leadership to the country.
Thank you. Hashim, go ahead.
Well said, Ashad. I think there's also a deficit of trust in Sudan, and this has been built, like Adib was saying, and my colleague Nasruddin, over this period, in the post-colonial period. So basically, it's not, you can engage them, but like Ashad was saying, the outcomes is not known. But it doesn't mean that we don't need to engage them. We could engage them with the hope to build trust over a course of time. And maybe one day, like Adib was saying, if they've signed 47, agreements, and maybe they kept one. So maybe one day they will keep one word. But it's not easy. It's a work in progress.
Sam?
I'm just wondering about the ICC indictment. How do you see it as a function of peace? Has it really helped the process, or it has just created new obstacles?
I think this is a really good question because just for my own satisfaction, I always ask the question, well, should justice come first or peace come first? And in my opinion, I think that, yes, we need accountability, but this is just my own view that in the context of, if you look at Joseph Kony, for instance, perhaps he could have signed the peace agreement, with Uganda in Juba if that, if that condition wasn't in place. So again, I'm looking at it at these lenses that yes, we need accountability, but then sometimes do we need to kind of defer this accountability just for the sake of maintaining some peace? And that's the question that I haven't found an answer to yet. But because like Adib was saying and Nasruddin is saying, in al-Bashir case, he got the message. So what has happened is that he knows that if he leaves power, his house and his retirement is, in The Hague. So then maybe he could use the military apparatus and the power that he's clinching into for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think the issue here, because the weakness of these institutions, the United Nations, the Arab League, and maybe to some extent the African Union. When the African Union and the Arab League, they came with the initiative to suspend this for 1 year using Article 6 at the United Nations, because they are talking about peace, that to give peace a chance. But by that particular time in 2009, there's no peace, or there's not even peace process that they can give it a chance. It is about interest that this institution they have on preventing Bashir from coming to the Hague. But it's not about keeping peace or making anything peace worse or better. 2009 there was no even peace process. In fact, the peace process that started late in 2009 and ended in 2010, it was not even affected by the indictment. So it was just saying that these institutions, they have different interests.
Okay, my question is on IDPs in Darfur or in Sudan in general. And the question goes like this. So what do you think that is responsible for the protracted nature of the IDPs in Darfur? Then secondly, if you are maybe working for a humanitarian organization, would you be comfortable providing assistance for IDPs for over 10 years? And don't you think those IDPs now feel that place should be home rather than an IDP camp? Because when you talk about IDPs, you look as if there is still emergency. But if they are at their home, then they cannot talk about long-term development and just stay there forever. So that's my question.
I think that's important. I work on a program called Darfur Emergency Response Operation. That was 2004, 2005. It was $50 million budget. It need to end by 2006. But that it end. The money was finished and the IDPs is still living in the camps. The first part of the question, those IDPs, they used to supply the people on towns and cities, and now they 100% depend on international foreign aid. So they instead of being depending at least as themselves to feed themselves, they depend on others, and that has a lot of different implications on attitude, behavior, dependence, crimes, a lot of very bad phenomena that comes along the line. If you are in Darfur in 2004 or 2005, and so you can see down white things, this plastic sheet and so over plane or so, and now you can differentiate the camp from the existing part of the city. And now if you're talking to somebody that, when are you moving, he said, no, to where? They don't even think of going back. Because to some extent they get like some kind of different things, but the main problem because lack of security. They can't go back to their homes because of the insecurity in the homes, as the homes.
So in essence, because they are comfortable there, so they don't want to go again, and they continue many IDPs for who knows.
Yeah, but in Sudan it has also its own complications, because in Sudan there is a law where they call it burning law, where if you are not there for 5 to 8 years, that land is no longer belong to you. And now the IDPs, they are living in the camps for 10 years. And then also there is this issue of people coming from somewhere else. And they are enjoying their land there, and they're cultivating their land and so. So in the Darfurian kind of context a little bit complicated because there's that kind of law. There's also people they don't want, some of them they don't want to go because of lack of security.
And I think in my personal perspective, if I may add a word, the security issue is the main problem. People do not feel that there is a durable peace agreement. The Janjaweed militia are everywhere you go. They are now more powerful than the soldiers of the government. They even can fight the soldiers of the government, so they can't go to their places. But I very much agree with you that even if the political problem is not actually addressed or permanently solved, this IDP issue should be solved. Because in 10 years, maybe from now or 5 years from now, we are not going to be able to convince any IDP to go back to their village, which is now occupied by people from other countries even.
Thank you. I would like now to return our discussion to the issues of and to possible solutions and suggestions on the way forward. As we heard from Ashad, he says that local capacity building can be one way to go. I was wondering, are there any mechanisms at the grassroots within communities themselves that can be utilized to start some kind of momentum or progress or movement forward?
Yeah, I do agree with Ashat on part of what he was talking about. There's already existing part of society there, but I disagree with him on the issue of leadership and so. So there's local grassroots. I 100% agree on that, and that is one of the things that we are suffering from. And the issue what he was talking about is recruitment and so. And I think we can pick it up from there. There's already existing part of grassroots and so, and then from there we can do. And absolutely, that's what I've been doing like over the past 2 weeks, talking to the people on the ground and the local leaders, local people, and then coming up to the issue of civil society and so. And Ashad was right to some extent when he was talking about the NGOs or the civil society, the way they view themselves, where they are monitoring the government activities and so. But they have to do that because the government is killing and the government is doing bad things. It's not the situation in Uganda or the situation in somewhere else. So those guys, if they are not talking about what the government is doing, they don't have any other things to talk about. So, and that's one of the things that it creates problems with them. So, to answer that question very brief, we'll continue working with the grassroots and trying to build their capacity, and then with the help from others, that's the time when we can build their capacity in a better way.
Yeah, if I may add, I think with the Sudanese society as a whole, but especially if I may look at it from the rural area perspective versus the urban area perspective, so Sudan has traditionally been kind of, we have pockets of autonomous powers, either it's based on your religious affiliation or your ethnic group. So the reason that I mention this because whenever you have a water problem, so the community comes as a whole, as an entity to resolve that problem. If there is any person who needs help, so traditionally, so in a way I would say the Sudanese community just naturally is ripe for having that discussion. It's just like Adib was saying, security itself is important. If we don't resolve the security issue, then it's kind of harder to build this grassroots capacity building and so forth. in the area where I come from, for instance, when the Nuba Mountains, I talked to my uncle back in June of 2011. When the peace was signed in 2005, there were a lot of organizations working there. People stepped up, organizing themselves, and life started picking up. But then once the war started, everything collapsed. So whatever they started and initiated came to a halt. So the impetus is there for this grassroots organizations, but as you cannot organize or build a capacity building when antennas fly over your head. I have uncles and aunts, and I keep talking to them on regular basis. So they're moving from one cave to another. So in this kind of a situation, it's a little bit harder. Maybe you can do it in the government-controlled areas in the north, where people who've internally displaced, like the guy was asking, or you can do it in the refugee camps, maybe in Ida, in Southern Sudan, where there are about 60,000 or more refugees who are in there. So maybe you can start the dialogue there, and then bring it in once there's stability. You can bring in those, or you can start it in the diaspora here or in the neighboring countries and have the discussion.
Can I just comment? Sewa, are you there?
I'm singing there.
Sewa Shad.
Ah.
Just forget
I'm
about it.
singing there.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you call his phone?
Yeah.
So no connection
Okay.
problem.
That's fine. Adib, I like your point of the national and the regional committees, these subcommittees. And this is exactly why I wanted to talk to Ashad. Because in leadership, power respects power. So in as much as you have a soft power from civil society, also you need hard power from above. And most of the time, probably my understanding of the politics in the region, we create this power, the hard powers, but at the same time we don't create a mechanism that helps them to get out. So once they're there, we don't have a mechanism in place to help them get out. And the civil society, I doubt if they have really been able to figure out. For example, how do we, if we can't, and Shadi said, pressing Ali Bashir might not be a solution. But granted that is not a solution, how do we transform his leadership from being the great man theory of leadership, where I know it too and I have it too, into transformation leadership, for example? Granted that he has to come out. So how do we create a mechanism that will make him really say, okay, if I step out there, tomorrow I'm not finding myself in the egg or find myself dead short. So I think probably those regional and national mechanisms, subcommittees that you are talking about, maybe they might need to look into this seriously and touch his fears, his own fears, and the men and women who are around him.
Yeah. Because in Sudan, instead of empowering the people, the government depend on disempowering the people and take the power from them. And when you give them power, besides the fact that it will give them like the vision whereby no one can use them or abuse them, it also protect them from happening, and then they can participate in a better way. And then the government also can respect or consider those people when they know. But because now we are in a situation where people, they don't differentiate between their rights and duty, then the government may do whatever they wanted to do. So build their capacity, give them knowledge, empower them, make them aware of how things need to be done, and so it's so better than working on the high class level and leadership, top leadership, and so.
Very quickly, I also think that all the things that we're discussing about is really important, but we also got to recognize this is Africa. In some part of the politics often is kind of the politics of the belly. So if it doesn't matter what you say. However, that person still has to feed his family, or if she's a woman and so forth. So the issue of resources becomes very fundamental, because your say or your voice might be determined by your wealth or the resource that you can garner. So I think with Sudan now deprived from the 75% of the oil revenue, we also need to, as much as we talk about leadership, at the heart of the conflict in Sudan, particularly in the Darfur, if we look at it from an environmental point of view, there's degradation happening. So this would pose a challenge in the future. Yes, we could have a good leadership, but then if we don't have enough resources to go around, or if we don't develop enough state capacity whereby basically the conflict is minimized, then we might still, have those conflicts even when the war ends.
Okay, so I think we don't have any more time. I would like to thank to our speakers and discussants, and to Vinny for facilitating the online issues. And I hope we'll have more vibrant discussions like this about Sudan and other areas in Africa soon with SCAR. So thank you very much. And
Yeah, thank you
stay
so
in touch.
much.